All righty. How you guys doing this morning? Good morning, everybody. Here on your August the 21st here on the Weather Nerds YouTube channel. Time for your favorite, the weather report here on your August 21st. Hope you guys are having a great day. Again, we're continuing to watch ERIN, which is now starting to pull away from the East Coast. Goodbye, good riddance. Never quite got back to a major hurricane status, although the pressure justified it. I think basically what it was that the wind field was just so large, it just could not bring the higher winds aloft down to the surface, so it never quite got back up there. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk. We got a lot to talk about. We've got to talk about the ERIN's latest. We got some more activity out in the tropics we got to talk about. We have to talk about this extreme heat out in the west, and of course the big, huge, and I mean huge fake fall that's going to be coming down here for next week. So anyway, let's go take a look here at the highs and lows from yesterday. And the coldest spot was Peter Sinks again, Utah, back in there at 32. And Maricopa, just like it was the day before, it was a hot spot at 119. And that excessive heat out there in the southwest, we're probably going to set some record highs out there in the days ahead. And just like next week, I suspect we're probably going to see record lows for a big part of the country here for next week. So anyway, let's get out of studio mode here a little bit. Again, look at that big swirl off the eastern seaboard, a very, very large system. We're talking about 800 miles plus across on this thing. As we got a cold front coming on in here and taking this thing out to sea, going to say goodbye to that. Got another trough that's kicking in back here in the back. That is the one that's going to be coming in, heading into going into early next week. There's a couple of them. There's a couple of series of them that are going to be coming on down. So again, we've got this big buckle in the jet stream. Thanks to this hurricane carrying on out. That's going to bring a nice, large dump of cool air. A lot of the country is going to be impacted by this, folks. I can't underscore that one bit. So anyway, let's go to the surface map here. Kind of look at the go there. You get that old stationary boundary that's here across the south. And that's going to be enhancing the rain here across the south. You guys are going to see some wet weather here, especially going into Friday and Saturday. Here's our next system up here. They're going to watch. This one's going to drop down as well as we go into this upcoming weekend. And, eventually get the hurricane on out of here. And we're going to see some nice weather for about 2/3 of the country, except for you folks from Washington State down into Arizona. I wish I had some better news. Now, also, the monsoon's going to be picking up as well. I guess we could kind of include that as part of the weather story as well, as that's going to be increasing on in there. Oh, by the way, I almost forgot to mention this. If you're actually new to the channel and you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, if you could do me the favor, please consider subscribing. We're a no-nonsense weather station here. We give it to you straight. I don't play the hype game. And our motto is to keep you prepared and not scared. So please help us out there. Give me a like and a follow, by the way. And if you've got a question, please post it down below. All right, let's go ahead and get into the radar. I want to go ahead and focus in on some of this rain up here in the Dakotas coming out of Montana for this morning. I was going to use the one in the Outer Banks, but it's too far offshore to really see anything there on the radar. So we'll go up there to check out the local rains here, just kind of coming in out of Montana and coming into South Dakota. So this is going to be the area that we're going to be kind of watching for some thunderstorms. We've got a few thunderstorms out there right there. Some rains there toward Waterford City. Getting some rains through there, but really not looking too bad. That's that next little system that we'll be watching there. Again, the big story about the heat. I can't understate this. I mean, you've got excessive heat warnings all the way from Washington State all the way down here into Arizona. So the West is really going to bake. Notice we said goodbye to those ones we've been having down here in the South Central United States. Cleared on out of here because of that frontal system coming on here. Now, obviously, we still got the tropical storm warnings here along the coast. This will let up here later today once that system is far enough away. But the wave action is still going to be tremendous for today, probably lingering into tomorrow, but the weekend should be better. So if you guys are anybody heading over to the Carolina coast, Virginia Beach, down toward Myrtle Beach, the Georgia coast, should be much, much improved there as that hurricane begins to slowly pull away. And speaking of the hurricane, let's go ahead and talk about the beach. I know this camera's a little out of focus, but boy, you can see how angry those seas are. No, I'm not getting into that water. No, thank you. That's definitely a bit of a problem out there this morning. It is, no, not a good beach day. Not a good beach day. But things should begin to improve there here overall. Again, they had there were some roads that got flooded out. There's been some housing that's gotten flooded. They're going to be needing the weekend to clean up. The weekend's going to be looking pretty decent. Should be good to see some, especially going into next week, so they get a chance to clean up before the Labor Day weekend. Of course, so that's a big tourist time of the year, especially for the Outer Banks. So hopefully, you can get things cleaned up in time for Labor Day. Let's go ahead and get into the tropics. Let's go talk about their big overview. And we've got 4 different systems. Count them out there. We got 4. Of course, we got ERIN that's pulling on away. I'm not worried about this one. That one's pulling away. I'm not worried about this one either. This is the one I'm watching right here. This is the one that's got my attention, as I got a suspicion. I'm looking at the data here, that this thing's going to sneak into the Caribbean. Now, what it does after that, I don't know just yet. Again, we got to wait till we get a low-level circulation lock in on this. But that one's got the best opportunity. So you folks in the Gulf Coast, this is the one to pay attention to. Not saying anything's going to happen just yet, but this is the one to watch, as it could work its way into the Gulf. And then because with a big trough that's coming down the east, anything that's up at a higher latitude is going to just go right back out in the Atlantic. So this has to undercut the high pressure, be drawn to the north with that troughiness that's going to be sitting up across the east here as we wrap up the month of August. So that is our hot spot. So again, here's the track on our hurricane here. Again, Cat 2, sitting at winds at 105 miles per hour, moving to the north-northeast at 17. So it's starting to accelerate, and this thing will be sweeping on out into the open Atlantic. And you ain't got to worry about ERIN anymore. ERIN is going bye-bye. But still very impressive on that satellite imagery there. You see the sun coming up there. And I love the visible imagery because it just looks so great. I love the visible imagery. It's a very massive, large storm. And I think its overall size is the only reason why we didn't see reintensification back to a Category 3, because the wind profile was just so large. Even though the pressure's justified, at least a Cat 3 storm, it just couldn't quite get that wind energy back down to the surface. So that's some good news there. But boy, it did a lot of flooding problems there and beach erosion along the East Coast. So they'll be cleaning up that for the next few days, to say the least. Here's the wider perspective of what's going on behind here. Again, we got that little disturb here right there. This is the one that's showing a 70% chance for development. It's going to fall behind ERIN. And then this is the one that we'll be watching closely here, that I suspect will be coming in toward the Leeward Islands. So we got a few more days before it kind of gets to the Leeward Islands on that. But that's the one we'll be watching predominantly going into next week. Looking at your model here, we're looking at the ESENS model here, the European. That's my preferred model of choice here. As again, you see this storm pulling away. You see this one being drawn northward, and aha, look at this. See these plots coming in here. Even one, and it's by itself, taking a hurricane here into the Gulf, but it's all by itself. This is 10 days out. And again, we will know for certain something's going to happen there once we get some sort of depression to form, get the models to lock onto that. But that one is my best candidate here so far this hurricane season to perhaps make it into the Caribbean, be a long track one, and potentially the Gulf. That's the best candidate so far. Not saying it's going to happen, but it's definitely by far the best candidate. All right, so let's go and talk about where the thunderstorm threats are going to be for today. Well, we had some pretty good thunderstorms here across North Georgia yesterday. I actually had a warning during our live broadcast last night in Fulton County. Had some flooding going on in Fulton County and stuff. So right now, it looks like the hot spot, the marginal zones, and that's all we're going to have here. It's going to be up across the northern tier. Got general thunderstorm threat here across the south. You're seeing that down here. Let's clear that off there. So you see that, and then you see the marginal up here. So we got a couple of pockets up here with that system up here to the north. So Grand Forks, getting close to Minneapolis, St. Cloud, back towards Sioux Falls, and over back toward Wyoming. So that's our hot spots here for today, and it's just a marginal. And again, the main threat here for today is going to be basically your wind. That's kind of sitting in that same general area. So we're talking 60, 70 mile per hour winds in that area. All right, so let's talk about day 2. How about that going into Friday? A little bit larger area there, as we're going to be going from the UP of Michigan, stretching all the way back toward Denver, Colorado, and towards Cheyenne. And we're talking about North Platte, Sioux Falls, Minneapolis in this. So this whole zone in here, again, it's going to be strong gusty winds, going to be the main threat here for that same general area. Once again, you probably have some hail pockets in there too, just a little bit for your day 2. How about day 3? Day 3, well, nothing there right now, just a general thunderstorm threat. I do suspect this will probably change, as it typically does. So this is going into your weekend, going into Saturday. Very large part of the country seeing thunderstorms. You'll also notice you've got a lot more out here in the west, so that monsoon's going to kick up. We're going to see some rains that are really going to kick up out here in the west as well. So because of that, we got to talk about the excessive rainfall threat here. So let's go check a look at that. Again, just pockets right now. Marginal to the southeast with that stalled boundary down there for today. This is for today, Thursday. The southwest, monsoon, Arizona, and in New Mexico. And, of course, with that storm system here across the northern tier for Minnesota back to the Dakotas. How about going into Friday? Well, we got a little more action down here in the southeast. So we got the yellow here. Again, that draws my attention, obviously. Almost the entire state of Georgia here under some sort of either marginal or slight risk for some heavy rains. But the heavy rain threat here, Savannah, back over toward Macon, Albany, seeing some clusters of rains. And the model data does support that. I'm going to show you that here in just a second. Notice we have more out here in the west. Arizona, Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, Colorado, even getting into ports of Wyoming. We have a little more of that monsoon going out there. Again, that's for your Friday. And how about Saturday? Saturday, a lot more action out here in the west. So we're going to see some isolated pockets of heavy rain out in the west. And then we'll see continue to have some threats here across portions of the east from West Virginia, Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, and down here toward Georgia and the South Carolina coast. So that'll continue going into your Saturday. So we got several days. Again, this has been the year of the flood here across a big part of the United States, and I don't see that kind of ending right now. We just had a record number of flash flooding events this particular season. All right, so let's go get into the model data. Let's get into this, shall we? Let's go look at your intermediate model road. We're going to be looking at your NAM model here, the latest, the 6Z run here. As we say goodbye to our hurricane, get lost, get out of here. As we see that, we're going to see unsettled weather here across the south. South's going to stay unsettled. Some rain down there. We're going to wait for this next trough that's kind of coming on in here across the Great Lakes. Again, that's the eventual cool down that's going to be coming here as we go into this upcoming weekend and into early next week especially. Looks like Tuesday and Wednesday will be some of the coolest days that we're going to see. And we're going to break down those temperature profiles in a second. But again, looks like most of the rain is going to be here across the southeast. This is right through here. And then we obviously got the rains coming across the Great Lakes, that next cold front coming on through. There's that cold front right there going into your Thursday, and then Friday coming over the Great Lakes and then approaching the northeast, and definitely staying on the other side. Best rain chances across the southeast look like Friday and Saturday. All right, so let's talk about the rainfall totals here. Let's go loop at this again the next 60 hours here, and you can clearly see why tomorrow especially you see the Georgia and the Carolinas. You see where a lot of that heavy rain is setting up in that area. So we got some pockets of 4 inches. There's 5 inches. There's 3 inches. There's a 5 inch there. So yeah, clearly see why this area is under the gun for flash flooding going into your Friday. So if you're in that part of the country, watch out for this. Some parts of northeast Georgia might get in the area. I know some of my viewers up there will be paying attention to that. We've definitely had several little flash flood events here across Georgia. And then we'll watch, again, a little bit of the system here. Just some scatter rain show. These aren't that bad. Looks like we got a couple inches up here across South Dakota here, kind of moving on to off toward the east. And again, this only goes out for 60 hours. Wait till I show you the 7-day here total. You're going to see a lot more activity out here in the west, because as we go through this weekend, the monsoon's just really going to start kicking in big time out there and be a bit of a problem. So let's talk about the temperatures. We're going to really beat down this heat. We're going to really beat it down. Watch what happens here as I'm looping this heat. You're going to see the heat up in here, and we're just going to keep shrinking it down here for the next 60 hours. So we're really going to be beating it down. There goes into Nebraska as we get some of this cool air. Look at this green showing up in here. And boy, I'm telling you, we're going to have, by Wednesday snapshot, I mean, so much of the country is going to be seeing that green that's 40s and 50s out there. It's just going to be unreal that on August the 27th, we're going to see that kind of weather. But you clearly see the beat down, the cool down here in the east. The heat's going to stay out in the west, though. Internal areas of California, again, impressive heat down here into Arizona. We're still seeing some 113s out there. And it's going to heat up in the Pacific Northwest as well. Seeing the 90s showing up in there. So the heat is going to be really building and staying in here for the next couple days and kind of heading next week. There will be some relief coming, guys, to you guys out in the west. It will come, but it's going to be about a week or so before we kind of see that take shape there, okay? All right, so let's go into, let's stop that. Let's talk about the overall weather pattern here, okay? So I'm looking at the 500 anomaly map here. Got the GFS, kind of looking to see, look at that big trough in the east. That thing's going to linger next week. It's going to take a while for it to clear on out. And then look at this big bulldozer out here in the west. That'll kind of move in beyond next week. So beyond 7 days, then we'll break that heat out there in the west. So again, we're looking for model trends at this point. So, but for the next 7 days, again, we say goodbye to the hurricane. It gets on out of here. Here comes that big trough in response to the hurricane getting on out of here, and the big trough in the east. And that means going into next week, we're going to see really big below normal temperatures for a big part of the country. The heat kind of getting squeezed out here, maybe across the Pacific Northwest there a little bit. We're going to have increased monsoon here across the southwest, so that's going to keep the temperatures down there as well because of cloud cover. And then if we go beyond the 10-day, this goes out to 10-day right about there. So again, you see the heat here in the west. It's kind of a fair here in the east, not too bad. Looks like fairly return to more seasonable levels by the time we get to the following weekend. And then we'll watch and see if this big bowling ball comes into the west here or not going beyond that. So tomorrow we'll double check and see if this is still true. Again, this is long range. This is going into that first week in September. We'll see if that will hold true or not. All right, so let's take a look right now at the next 7 days here. Again, we're going to say we got this next system. This is going to be Ferdinand most likely, and it's going to go on out to sea. That's that area of disturbed weather that's got a 70% chance for development. So that's going to move on out of here. So we say goodbye to our hurricane, and we're going to say hello to this nice big trough here in the east. Here comes that cold front right here going into Sunday. So here's our frontal system right here, diving down this nice cool air mass that's coming in across the eastern, basically almost half of the United States here. And this thing's going to settle on in. Still looking unsettled on Sunday, so still rains in the southeast here as that high, look at that 1025 high starts to drop in, 1026. That's not bad for summer standards, really it's not. As this kind of comes on in here and really sets up shop here going into Tuesday morning. I mean, you're talking about some very cool air mass here coming in here toward Tuesday, coming right down the pike here. So again, a lot of the country going to be seeing some much cooler temperatures here going into next week. And it looks like unsettled out in the west. So look at the monsoon out in the west. See all that rain activity out there in the west going into Tuesday next week. So again, we're going to see a lot more rain out here in the west. Localized flooding will be a problem. You're getting into California. So we're going to see some wetter weather out there toward the western part of the United States. And the east will be dry. With this kind of flow, we're going to shut that moisture off. So it's going to be drying up here across there. So below normal precipitation you can expect there across the Midwest going into next week. And this moves on out. And then it kind of holds through at the end of next week. So there you go. Got our next little system coming out of the plains there. Maybe some storms there into Missouri going to next Thursday. But the west is going to stay wet. Southeast dries out. Northeast looking pretty good. All right, so let's look at the rainfall totals. This is your 7-day snapshot. Again, southeast, obviously, we got the heavy rains here for the weekend. And then look at the rain out here in the west. So we got a lot of pockets out here. 4 inches, a minute, inch and a half, 2 inch and a half. Near almost 2 inches there, almost 2 inches there. So again, we're going to wet it up here in the west. Even Nevada, California getting into some rain. Oregon getting some rain. You don't see that very often at the end of August. Usually you got to wait till we get a little bit later into the fall for that. But that's what they're going to see right now here for the next 7 days. Here we go with the temperatures. All right, so we're going to take this step by step, and this is the one you guys want to stick around. You want to watch this. I'm telling you, this is fun to watch. So anyway, you got this heat out in California even this weekend. Look at this, 105, 107. Out here in the Eternal Valleys in California, hot in the southwest. We got 100-degree temperatures up here in Washington State on Saturday. So it's plenty hot. Cool here across the high plains. It's warm across the northeast, warmer in Ohio River Valley. We're kind of hot here in the southeast, in the south central portion of the United States. But we're going to beat this back. Let's go into your Sunday. There's your Sunday morning. Look at these 50s. And if you think that's something, wait till Wednesday. Wait till Wednesday. I'm going to show you this, man. Here we go. There we go for your afternoon hour. We're shrinking down that hot temperatures here across Texas, 102, 105, shrinking it down. We got temperatures here like Chicago, 67 degrees on Sunday afternoon. That's not bad. Look at this. We got 40s afternoon highs across Minnesota, but still hot out in the west. Again, you guys out here in the west are going to stay a while. It gets cool in the east. It's going to bake out in the west going into Sundays. Let's go into your Monday morning. Monday morning, look how much more of the temperatures here are cooling off. Look at this. We're getting 50s into Kentucky now, 50s into Tennessee. Still some 60s along the East Coast here, 70s across the southeast into Monday, but that'll be the last warm day y'all see out there. This thing's kind of cool down even into the southeast. There's your Monday. Look at this on Monday afternoon. Wow, look at that. We're sure there's our hot weather. That's it. That's it. But look how much of the cool temperatures here across the big part of the country. Very, very, very big area there. Let's go into your Tuesday. Tuesday's when things really start to get going here. Look at that. Look at it. 8 o'clock. Look at this. Wow. I mean, we're talking 50s down, 50s getting down here into Georgia and Alabama, out here in the west. I mean, just very, very cool temperatures. You're seeing, we'll highlight some of these real quick. Look at 46 there near Madison. You got upper 40s near Chicago, out in the burbs, 52 near Lexington, Kentucky. We got Topeka, Kansas out here in the 50s, 58 degrees out here. So, I mean, just really, really something to see. And then how about your going into, and I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm gonna show you how messed up I am. I'm thinking, I mean, this is amazing to see. This is 8 o'clock in the morning. It's just, it's just unreal. Let's take this forward here. Let's look at these afternoon highs. Look at these highs on, wow, this is rain cooled obviously, but look at all this. We're talking temperatures here, 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesday in the 50s. In the 50s, coming out of the Rockies into Missouri, Kansas. It was showing that yesterday too. So again, I look for model continuity, and that's 2 days in a row. It has showed that. And then going out to your Tuesday afternoon highs here, I mean, we got the heat across Texas, the west. We got a big cool down here in the east. I mean, just the front's going to stall to the south. So Texas, I don't know, you're not going to get much relief there. It looks like it starts to beat it down there a little bit going into your Wednesday. And look at here Wednesday morning here, Wednesday 8 o'clock. This is what I really wanted to show, because we were talking about, look how much of the country here. We're talking, what, 80% of the country seeing that green. That's basically 40s and 50s. I mean, unreal. I mean, we're going to set some record lows. I don't see any question around that. We're going to see some record lows for next week going into that. And then afternoon highs on Wednesday, we'll pop that back up to here. Again, the heat finally breaks in Texas, but we're still holding on to the heat in Florida. In South Texas, the Southwest, and the Northwest still stays hot. So, but look how much of the country cools off. We're warming it back over here into the 80s back across the Dakotas as things start to let up there. But I mean, 70s, we got 50s in the Northeast, 63 degrees. I mean, this is unheard of in August the 27th. That's what the calendar's showing. So let's wrap this up by looking at the climate outlook here. And boy, you can see that big difference. Look at that. Again, this is going out from the August 26th through the 30th. Big time below normal temperatures. And that lingers, folks, right into the 3rd of September. And even going out to the west there, I think it's mostly because of cloud cover rain. Hot in the northeast still, northwest, still looking hot up there. South Florida kind of hot. South Texas kind of hot. Kind of holding on to that. And then let's take a look at your 6 to 10 day outlook here. Again, we've been talking about this increased moisture threat out here. And of course, dry here because of the cool north and west flow. Now, what we got to watch is I've got to check and make sure how the fires are doing out there in Canada. We'll have to watch that. There's still some fires burning up there, so we may get some smoke to blow in across the Great Lakes northeast. We'll have to wait and see because it's getting kind of late in the season up here, and it's starting to cool off in Canada too. So that's usually that's when they get the upper hand on the fires. And then looking at the 8 to 14, that really doesn't change all that much there in the west. So anyway, that's how we're looking here for this morning. Again, we got a lot to watch here on the Weather Nerds channel. Obviously, we've got the tropics, which are continue to stay pretty active, right, as we're getting to the peak of hurricane season, which is September the 10th. So we're going to deal with the heat out in the west. You guys deal with that. We're going to beat the heat down for a lot of folks for a big part of the country as this fake fall air mass comes in. We're going to look at record highs in the west, record lows in the middle of the country here. And again, that system out in the middle of the Atlantic, that's down south, that's the one to watch. Probably become Gabrielle. I believe that's the G-name storm. That's the one we got to watch that could potentially sneak into the Caribbean, maybe the Gulf. Don't know. It's about 10 days out. We got a ways to watch that one, but that's the one I'm most concerned about right now. Again, who we got out there watching out there this morning? We got our treasured Hallam out there. Good to see you there. And of course, we got our Irish Queen out there this morning. How are you? And looking pretty good here for this morning. You guys, do appreciate you guys checking us out here for today. Again, looking forward to continue to monitor what's going on out there for the next week or so. And until then, you guys just have a great and safe day. And we're going to see you tomorrow. Tomorrow. We got one more day. Work week's not over yet. We got till tomorrow. And we'll get you on there. All right. That's it for now. You guys take it easy. Be good. Stay safe. And we'll see you tomorrow. You guys